So in launching the brand, and dealing with those, helping people to deal with those issues, what have been some of the biggest kind of light bulb moments and times in which you saw kind of the impact that you were having with the educational material? Or
Um,
just honestly being somebody that they can text?
um, so it's been actually really, really interesting. I think it's been a combination of a lot of different things. I think it was in the first focus groups way before we launched the brand. This is like 2018, 2019.
Mhm, mhm.
Just like I been sitting in a room with them and I came to this focus groups with like so many assumptions, right? You come into this and like as an entrepreneur, a know-it-all entrepreneur, you come into this. I know exactly what they think. I know exactly what they're using. I know exactly what they're excited about. I know exactly where they shop. Like, let's just ensure that we can, just
Check the boxes.
check the
Yeah.
boxes and see that this is what. And then I came into this the first focus group, and I remember calling one of our advisory boards, who's still like one of our closest advisors, and I called him after, and I was like, like everything I said was completely wrong. I had no idea what I was talking about. They're not using what I think, they're not shopping where I think, like, it's not all of this, like, we could start from scratch essentially of all the assumptions because it was completely different. And because I had this perspective of, like, being a millennial and knowing millennials, I was like, they have access to all the D2C brands. They're like all about Glossier. They use all the drunk elephants in the world, like they're buying in Sephora. Like I had all these different perspectives of like, I know exactly who they are, where they shop, because it's, Gen Zers. Like, of course, they're the extreme version of millennials. But no, Gen
Yep.
Z are the complete opposite of millennials. But I didn't know it then. So so I'm coming into these focus groups and I'm like, "Hi," and showing them coming like taking out of my bag like a drunk elephant product, and they're like, "Oh, this is really cool. I've never seen this before. This is really, really cool." And I'm like thinking in my head,
Like,
"Do
what?
they not know elephant? How do they not know drunk elephant? Like I thought they're all using drunk elephant." And then like starting to speak to them and like understanding what they think and what they're using, and then like all I hear is Neutrogena and Cetaphil and Clean and Clear, and Neutrogena and Cetaphil and Clean and Clear, a little bit of Proactive, but like Neutrogena was then like the biggest one. Now it's CeraVe, but
Interesting.
like then it was like Neutrogena in a big, big, big way. And I'm like coming out of the first focus group and thinking to myself, why would they still use Neutrogena? How could that make sense? Like
Yeah,
like
totally.
all these beautiful brands. Like when you look and like I looked in deeply into like the beauty industry landscape of like indie brands, and you see like 400 brands and like so many different options, and it's like
And they're
nothing.
all for us. They're for
Exactly.
people with disposable income that can drive themselves to Sephora and Ulta and
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And they're made for people who over the age of 25 that can spend an X amount of money per product and also are, looking for anti-aging products. And then that's when I realized like this entire industry has been focused in the last 4 to 5 years solely on millennials.
Yep.
Nobody even thought for a second that there's a generation, a huge category that is still buying in like Walmart and Target and CVS, that is
Yep.
still, that is doesn't have a disposable income, that are looking, that they don't know much about skincare. They definitely don't have it accessible to them. And it's like when I started researching, like 24% of teens were using Neutrogena.
That's crazy.
24%. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's such a so that's when that was like a major light bulb moment of like understanding, okay, definitely it's a whole another category. And then to just like in our community and talking to them, also like understanding where they shop and the fact that like they feel intimidated in Sephora. They feel like
Yep.
they're being judged, like that it's too expensive for them. And then when you talk to them about where they actually shop, like the fact that 41% of them are actually in Walmart 3 to 4 times a month, that they love buying
Yep.
in Target, that this is something that they
Well, and they
essentially
often don't have credit cards to buy online, right? Like, so, they
were
go
driving
with their
license.
parents on the trip to Target and like, hey, okay, pick out some stuff that you want, right?
Exactly. And like that they don't have a driving license. And then like it was really interesting because like obviously we had a community throughout. So we saw how, from knowing nothing about skincare and being extremely focused in makeup, because like 2019 was all about makeup and cosmetics and all about like beauty tutorials, and like they were obsessed then with James Charles and Jeffree Star. That's what they all cared
Mm,
about. And they knew nothing about skincare. They knew nothing about, like ingredients. They knew nothing about, what is the right ingredients. Like niacinamide was a word that I would say 99.9% of Gen Zers didn't even know that existed. And like now, every teen is like, "Oh, it has niacinamide in this. I'm so excited." Like this is a whole a whole new thing. Um so we throughout the pandemic, like we saw how everything and the narrative is changing to skincare, and how everyone is being extremely educated into skincare, and like how has that shifted again, in the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months, because again, like people are not as excited about skincare as they were a year and a half ago. So not in terms of like not excited about using the products, like they're all still using products, but rather than like, the skinfluencers that used to be huge a year and a half ago, now like makeup is getting a lot of the attention again, and like they're much more interested in like experiencing makeup and like playing with it, and all these elements. So a lot of like different light bulb moments of like understanding how much I don't understand of Gen Z, how much
yep.
their shopping behavior and their shopping patterns are completely different, and also the need of like, when we entered this, we knew that there's not a brand like this out there, that like nobody's
Hmm.
doing what we're
Hmm.
doing. And even like brands that are affordable and are selling in big box retailers are still very much targeted towards millennials and Gen X. Like they're not necessarily Gen Z focused.
Yeah.
So we saw this as like a really amazing opportunity to create something that is so much better for them. So that's like, I would say, like the two elements. And like I think that point was also the point that I understood in a big way, that in order to keep up with them, we have to listen to them, and that we have to make them a part of the brand and their conversation in the biggest way possible. And like we talk about it with them, because we have like constantly Zoom calls with them, and I constantly say like, this is something, every feedback you have, please share with me, because we really honestly think that you know best. So I want to listen to everything you have to say. Um and that was also because like we see how the world is shifting, and like how with Gen Zers, what was relevant a year ago is no longer relevant, and what was relevant 6 months ago or 3 months ago is also no longer relevant. So like the only way to keep up with what's happening is to listen. So very like a lot of major light bulb moments in like the process of listening to them. And just like the biggest learning curve for me was like, always assume you know nothing, because that's the only way you're truly going to understand your consumers.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is like just assuming they know, right? Like, oh, I know this category, right? And you obviously know like Y Combinator, right? But like Y Combinator, for those that don't know, is it's a tech accelerator. They launched Stripe, which is worth tens of billions of dollars, Airbnb, a ton of others, incredibly successful. And one of the things they talk about is just like talk to your users, just talk to them all the time. And I saw somebody making fun of it on Twitter, basically saying like, Y Combinator's big unlock was getting like, engineers who only sit in front of their computer to talk to people. That was the big unlock. Was just like, just go talk to people. Like, and then there's another company called Woofu, and it was great. They killed it. Like one of the best returns of all time from an investor perspective on a percentage basis. And they had only engineers on the team, but what they did was they made each engineer had to do customer service like once a week. And then what happened is they're hearing all these complaints like, oh my god, like how are we still like, we I have to fix this, right? And so it's such a big unlock, just like constantly talking to people.